Welcome
to Beyond
Sports
Sports with Paul and Jeremy. I'm Paul.
I'm Jeremy.
We look at sports from all angles.
What's really going on?
Beyond Sports. All right. Welcome to Beyond Sports with your favorite host. I am Jeremy Felton. Big Money Felt is my nickname. And joining me is Paul Carey today. So welcome to the studio, Paul.
Glad to be here. I just worked out 6 times today. I'm awfully tired and sore. Also, you know how I be in the club 3 nights a week. Come holler at me, throwing up money.
Be in the club 6 nights a week, throwing up money. Man, big money felt. That's what I'm talking about. I'm Paul, and that's Jeremy. Today we're going to be talking about the NCAA men's basketball tournament. We're going to give you our picks, and we're going to discuss some interesting storylines that are going to be coming up as well. So, Jeremy, how are you feeling overall about this tournament? For me personally, I'm actually fairly intrigued. Like it's not one that I feel like there's like a lot of parity in the basketball right now, and I feel like there's a lot of chances for a lot of teams to upset or really do a really good job. So, what are your thoughts on this basketball tournament before we start up?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like there are a few good teams, but there aren't necessarily any teams that you feel like are overwhelming favorites to win. So this is a pretty wide open tournament. Not like last year where we knew there was just like 2 teams that should win it all. This year, I don't know. We'll see, and hopefully it'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure. So matter of fact, let's just jump right in because we're gonna get to the storylines eventually, right? Like I'm not worried about getting to the storylines. I know we're gonna get there. So let's jump to this first game. So the first game in the West is number 1 against number 16, Gonzaga versus Georgia State. I feel like this is a fairly easy win for Gonzaga. What are your thoughts with them with this game, and what are your thoughts with Gonzaga just in general?
I feel like Gonzaga was probably more talented last year, but they have a unique couple of players, right? So there's no telling. Gonzaga is really good now at retooling. They lost Jalen Suggs, who is one of the best freshmen in the NCAA. They come back with Chet Holmgren, right? Like they're getting people. So they can do it because they're not a different team. They have a lot of experience as usual. And I think they can breeze through this first game, no problem, and keep going.
Yeah. Georgia State's interesting. They're not really crazy good. Their coach used to coach at IUPUI, by the way. So that is actually kind of interesting.
Who's that?
What's his name? Mike. What is it? Mike. I forgot. I can't even use this freaking iPad. Let me see if they have it on here. One of forgetting. Oh, yeah, I had to remember what his name is. His son ended up going to the NBA though, as a draft pick. So that was actually pretty interesting. But he was an interesting coach. He was there when George Hill was there, so he got all those guys to the NBA. But his team at Georgia State, I don't think they're as good. And I think Gonzaga, like as you were talking about, they retool really well. And I think this is one of the points that Jeremy was talking about maybe years ago, talking about how Gonzaga, they keep doing really well, but they don't go as far as they should in the tournament. Last year, they did a little bit better in that one, and they retool. They got players that come back, which is really, really good as well. I think Chet Holmgren is a next level player. Like, have you got to see him play so far this year?
I've seen him play a couple of times.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on him, just in college and in the NBA? Just to get that out the way.
I like his progression as a player. It feels like I used to see highlights when he was younger, and of course he's just scoring all over these kids. But in college, he's playing defense. He's setting other people up. He's trying to actually be a team player, and he's doing everything he can to help the team win, which I think is really good because you have a guy like him, and he's got such a unique body type. He's like Kevin Durant. I don't feel like he's as athletic, probably, although I mean he's really good around the rim defensively. You know what I mean? So he does a lot of unique things because he's tall, long, skinny, and he's a real asset to his team just based on his unique skill set.
Yeah, I think he's a really solid player. I think that with his length, with his agility, and his defensive demeanor and how he actually knows how to play defense, right? You said that he has a small frame, but he's able to absorb people trying to back him down. He kind of like bends in, and then when they try to go up, he just like reaches over top and still blocks it, right? Like he has a really good understanding of his limitations and how he can take advantage of those. So I think he's going to be a good NBA player, and I think in college he's doing like a really good job so far. I think Timmy being there, adding that senior leadership, or that experience with the tournament is definitely going to help out with the other guys on the team as well. So I think for this one, Gonzaga is an easy win, and I'm excited to see what they do in the tournament. Being the number 1 seed, they kind of like fluctuated from the number 1 and then back to it this season. So shout out to Gonzaga for doing a really good job so far. The next game we have is Boise State versus Memphis. I'll tell you what, for me, I'm going with Memphis on this one. Memphis is a very interesting team. I remember seeing earlier this year where Penny Hardaway was basically, or Anthony Penny Hardaway, whichever you want to say, right? Where people were like, what's going to happen? Is he going to get fired? What's going on with this season? Like, he brought in all these top recruits and they're not doing anything at all. And at that point, I was like, man, that is crazy. And you know what his response was? He's like, we're just dealing with injuries. We're a really good team. So he was like, we're a really good team. Once we get healthy, we'll be perfectly fine. Like, I know we lost a lot of conference games, but we'll be fine once we get healthy. Ever since then, I think they went on a 10-1 streak. That's been pretty impressive, right? Because I think they were 9-8 initially, and they went on 10-1 streak. So they're doing really well. They're one of the hottest teams coming into the tournament, winning their conference also. So I think that's a really good thing. I'm not even overly sure about Boise State. Have you heard about Boise State? How is Boise State? And who are you thinking? Who are you thinking for this game specifically?
I don't know how Boise State is playing. Honestly, I don't know, but I heard a stat, or I don't know if this is a stat, but I heard that according to some rankings, Memphis has been the second best team in the country to Gonzaga since Imani Bates stopped playing with them because of his, I guess, back injury. So since he stopped playing for the team, they've been supposedly the second best team in the country. So I read some things saying that, I don't know, maybe he could play for them or maybe he could come back for the tournament. I feel like maybe he shouldn't come back apparently. But either way, Memphis has been really hot, like you said. So why not keep that going?
Yeah. And one thing about Imani, I think last time that I saw when he was playing, he was actually coming off the bench. He wasn't even a starter. So that's an interesting thing as well. So even if they have him come back and they have him off the bench at moments, maybe that'll give them an extra scorer and another guy that's a playmaker. But overall, right now, Memphis is really doing well. Boise State, I just looked it up. They won 3 times against San Diego State, which is huge. Another team. They lost to Colorado State twice, which another solid team. Washington State, they won. Wyoming, they won twice. Wyoming just got beat by IU to get into the tournament. I did say get into the tournament. That little playing game is not the tournament for me. So I don't know what you think about that, but for me, it is definitely not. But again, I think Memphis right now, they're riding on this energy. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and go with Memphis, but I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people think. I wouldn't be surprised if Boise State ends up taking it from Memphis in this one. All right. Next game up, UConn, number 5 versus New Mexico State. Do you know anything about either one of these teams this season, Jeremy?
I've seen UConn play like once. I can't say I know anything about them. They beat Villanova one time. They beat Auburn. So they've had a couple of good wins on the year. So I think, being in a major conference in the Big East or what are they in the athletic? I don't know, whatever they are. American. So, I mean, I don't think it's Big East. They've had some good wins, and New Mexico State, I can't say that I think that they're at that level. I mean, they're a 12th seed, they're a 26-6, but I think I'll go with the battle-tested big conference team here with some bias.
I feel like it's going to be weird. I feel like I want to go with UConn just because of the history. New Mexico State, I was reading that they have like 2 really tall guards that are supposed to be like driving their team, which is actually pretty interesting, with UConn not necessarily being as strong defensively. But yeah, I think for this one, ooh, man, do I want to go with the upset yet? Nah, I'll go with UConn. I'm still going to go with UConn for this one. Maybe we have an upset coming pretty soon. I guess the Memphis one was a little bit of an upset, but only by seeding. So Yeah, UConn sounds good for both of us. How about the next game, Arkansas versus Vermont? I've seen Arkansas play this year a couple times, and they've been pretty impressive, pretty impressive at times.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people want this to be an upset because Vermont's on a long winning streak, right? They've been playing really well. They've won 28
Yeah,
games.
They were 17-1 in conference.
So they've been really good all year. But who's to say who's the better team here? It's anybody can win. But I think that I'll have to go with Arkansas. Arkansas has been, a tough team in the SEC. I mean, they beat Kentucky, beat Tennessee, Auburn, and they've won a lot of games, right? So yeah. I'll have to go with Arkansas. I know it's very chalky, but I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, I like Arkansas. I feel like the biggest thing with Arkansas is some of their decision making at times may not necessarily be the best, but they have the athletes, they have the scorers, and I think that that's going to be the thing that carries them on. For a game like this, what you're saying is true. Vermont being on a 17-1 streak in conference play and not having really lost much is huge coming into the tournament. But I don't think that it's going to be enough at this level to beat Arkansas, because Arkansas is also coming in with a lot of momentum as well. So I think for this one, again, I'm going to go ahead and go with the favorite and go with Arkansas to win this game. All right, awesome. There's another game coming up. Wait, Rutgers and Notre Dame are playing right now, right? Or they're playing in a second?
Let's see.
Yeah, let me pull that up real quick. So while Jeremy's looking that up, the next game is going to be Alabama versus Rutgers or Notre Dame. I'll say this.
Yeah, so this says it's going to be 8:25 Eastern, so I don't know. Are they delayed or something?
Oh, no, there was another one that was right before it. So, hey, shout out to the Purdue ladies beating Southern Illinois in the NIT. Spoiler up. If you know what it is, you know what it is. Oh, Wright State beat Bryant. Wow. Yeah. So Notre Dame and Rutgers should be playing in 2 minutes. But Wright State beat Bryant, so we'll keep that in mind. But this Alabama versus Rutgers Notre Dame game, what do you think? Is Alabama that strong? Do you think that they should win this game, will win this game, or will they struggle and potentially lose it?
Well, Rutgers and Notre Dame were two of the last teams in. This first four concept is a little murky to me. I don't understand why 11 seeds are playing games. I just don't get it. But they're some of the last teams in, right? So you have to believe that their resumes are a little shaky. And for some reason they're in. I mean, Michigan maybe shouldn't have been in, but they got in. But either way, Rutgers and Notre Dame, probably not as good. Alabama, they're going to be a tough, scrappy team. I think just the SEC is such a tough conference now, a lot of physical teams, that I feel like that can be the difference when these games get close, Whereas like Rutgers, Notre Dame, just because they're probably fringe NCAA tournament teams anyway. So I'm going to have to go with Alabama.
No, for me, I feel like there's one player that I really like his game on Rutgers, and that's this watch is telling me Rutgers playing, and that's dang it, why did I just forget his name? Oh, Ron Harper Jr.
Yeah,
dude, he balls, man. Like he is that annoying dude that just like lets his team win. Like he pulls his team to a win. You're just like, why is this dude balling out like this? Like we didn't even know they had a secret weapon, right? Like he's a superhero for that team at times. And I think because he has that advantage, it'll be interesting because he can make shots. He can make difficult shots. He can get people in foul trouble. And Alabama is not necessarily that good of a 3-point shooting team. I like their, I think he's a freshman point guard. It's like J.D. Davison or something like that. He's pretty good, but sometimes he's a little out of control, and that's going to be one of those things. If Alabama gets behind and they're playing a team like Rutgers, it's going to be very challenging. I'm not really sure how Notre Dame has been this season overall, but if Alabama goes against Rutgers, I'll say that there's a chance that Rutgers pulls this upset. So it'll be interesting to see who wins this game tonight. If Rutgers wins, I'll take Rutgers. If they lose, I'm going to take Alabama. So for the sake of this conversation, we'll go ahead and just say that we're going to choose Alabama. I'll change it later if I need to. But, hey, Ron Harper Jr., that boy balls out, man. Like, it's wild, man. Stunting like his daddy, I guess. Stunting like his daddy. All right.
Yeah. Ron Harper was really athletic before he had some knee injuries, right? So he was I think, if you remember him from the Bulls, he wasn't the explosive guy that he was in his early career.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Ron Harper, and it sounds like a hefty dude, right? He's not like like he's a muscular, hefty dude, like,
Yeah.
but he's still it's like just balling, man. There's a guy like that on Colorado State as well. That's just a killer, like same type of body frame. Think a little bit taller. Maybe he plays like small forward, but another killer out there. But all right. So the next game we have is Texas Tech versus Montana State. All right, Jeremy, who are you taking in this game?
I'm gonna go with Texas Tech. I mean, I know I'm doing terrible as far as I'm doing this chalky picks, but you gotta like, one of the better defensive teams. Yeah, like they're probably gonna play a tough, scrappy, close game, but dominate. So I'm gonna go with Texas Tech. And Montana State, 27 wins on the year, but I don't think it's gonna be enough at this point. However, I mean, if they can hit some shots, you never know. But I'm gonna go with Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm going to go with Texas Tech on this one. I think they're just going to be a little bit stronger. They're a little bit better, had a lot more competition. The biggest thing going for Montana State is their ability to shoot, and any team that has the ability to shoot can definitely go pretty far, because when you get into this tournament, when people don't really have an understanding of who your team is, right? When you're not playing power forwards like super close and they can make threes, right? That starts to frustrate you and it starts to build up. You start to find yourself from behind, and then you're not necessarily able to get back into the game. So when those teams that can shoot, I think that's like similar to what was it, Oral Roberts, like not too long ago. They were a team that just could score like crazy, and they shocked
Yeah.
a lot of people in the tournament. But I think for this game again, I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I feel like they have a better team overall. Yeah, Texas Tech it is for me. The next game though, Michigan State versus Davidson. What are you thinking with that one, Jeremy?
If I have to pick an upset, I want to pick this one. No particular reason. The teams seem to be pretty evenly matched statistically, so I think that the team that scores more points, Davidson, can have, they operate, deliberately, it says here. So I'm reading the ESPN notes. So I'm going to go Davidson on this one to pull off the upset because somebody's got to get beat. And who better to choose to get beat than the team that seems to think that they own March, even though for some reason they don't actually win championships. So I'm going to go with Davidson.
It's interesting. Initially, I had Davidson winning this game. I think Davidson has a solid team. They won a lot of really good games, and they played against some solid competition. Michigan State is one of those teams that's a little bit edgy. They've dealt with a lot of injuries recently, especially in the Big Ten tournament, and I feel like that's one of the things they have to keep in mind. But they've been running what is it, their small forward or shooting guard at the point guard, and he's been really doing an amazing job for Michigan State, at least in the tournament. So I feel like because that's been working so well, they're going to bring that back for the March Madness tournament, and I think that that's going to give Michigan State the edge. They're coming off a lot of momentum in the Big Ten tournament, and man, that Davidson team though. All right, we're going to go with Michigan State. I'm done. I put it down there. It's done. It's over. Michigan State for the win. So good luck to Michigan State. Don't let me down. I don't want you to let me down. I never want you to let me down. There we go. Cool. Awesome. I'm not a Michigan State fan, but I picked them today. All right. Next game we have Duke versus Cal State Fullerton. Man, I ain't even gonna talk about this one. Who you got, Jeremy?
I got Duke. I mean,
Duke.
Duke's they're not that bad to where they're gonna lose in the first round again, right? So we'll give them this win. They've been a little shaky down the stretch, but I think they can win this one.
Yeah, Duke is very interesting. I guess I'll talk about them maybe the next round just to give a little bit more context with them. But I also have Duke winning this one. Let's see, Jeremy. I think we should just go ahead and finish off the West bracket first, and then we can go to the next ones just to make it a little bit simpler. So for the round of 32, we have Gonzaga versus Memphis, UConn versus Arkansas, Alabama versus Texas Tech, and Michigan State versus Duke. So only one real upset in that round with Memphis beating Boise State. How about the second game? We know that Memphis is coming in very hot. They have a lot of momentum, and they've been the hottest team in college basketball next to Gonzaga. So who's going to win this, the hottest team or the second hottest team? What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, we have a battle of the two best teams in college basketball in the second round of the tournament. That's just bad scheduling. But I'm going to go with the team that's been at the top of the rankings all year, Gonzaga. At some point they have to be better than the rest of the competition, right? At some point, maybe this is the year. So I'm going to ride Gonzaga, which I've done the past 5 years. So we'll see.
Yeah, dude, this is a weird one, man. Like, I keep going back and forth with this game, and this is the one where I think that there can be an upset. I think that Gonzaga could potentially lose to Memphis. I actually put them beating or Memphis beating Gonzaga before. Then I had to come back and just double check. But I do think that, Memphis defensively is going to be tough. And I think the toughness of Memphis defensively is going to give Gonzaga some problems. And I think that if Memphis plays really well, they have a chance to win this one. If Gonzaga doesn't get creative with how they're going to deal with the defensive pressure, then this game is going to be pretty wild, man. Shoot. Dang. Do I want to pick? Let me see. I'm going to go with Memphis. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to go with Memphis to pull the upset. I know it doesn't happen that often. I think the last time was like in 2009 or something like that, or 2017, something where a 9 beat a 1 seed. But man, there's something about this Memphis team right now. Like I'm vibing with them. They're probably going to get beat by Gonzaga, but I'm going to go with Memphis to win this one. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. All right, I might come back to that one in the next round.
Hey, man, it's fine. It's fine. You can
it's tough, man. Like, I really wanted Memphis to have a better draw because I feel like they could have really pushed towards the Sweet 16. But facing Gonzaga in the second round is a tough test. But if they can win that, man, they can do a lot in this tournament. So the next game, UConn versus Arkansas. I'm going to go ahead and take Arkansas on this one. Like I said, I think Arkansas has a lot of tenacity. I like the energy that they play with. I feel like they're a very strong team. They support each other throughout. And I think that that's one of the things that you really need going into the tournament, especially if you're going to try to advance. There's some teams in the tournament, as we'll get to, that don't have that teamwork together like Arkansas does. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and go with Arkansas to win over UConn. How about you, Jeremy?
I'm going to go with the scouting report here and say that because Arkansas isn't a great perimeter shooting team, that comes to bite them with a team that UConn that protects the paint really well and is good defensively as well. I'm going to go with UConn. Of course, it's a very even matchup, 5 versus 4. So I'm going to go with UConn to win this one, though, in a slight upset.
All right, Jeremy's going with UConn. So we had 2 picks, Gonzaga and Memphis, and then UConn and Arkansas separate. The next game is going to be Alabama versus Texas Tech, right? Or Rutgers versus Texas Tech. Jeremy, who do you have in this one?
This is a tough one. So I have Alabama playing Texas Tech in this one. And it's going to be, can Alabama score a bunch of points against a good defensive Texas Tech team? I need to pick some upsets. I'm going to go with Alabama for this one.
Ooh. Wow. See, I don't know, man. I think Alabama has a strong team. I've seen them throughout the season. And they have some times when they play as a team, when everything's flowing together, they are very dangerous. But I think for this one, I'm going to go ahead and go with Texas Tech to win this one over Alabama. So again, I had a couple of upsets so far, but this won't be one for me. The next game that we have is Michigan State versus Duke. We already talked about Michigan State. We talked about how their guards have been doing really well. Jeremy mentioned a little bit about Duke. Jeremy, the Duke Blue Devils are very interesting. They've had a very solid season, but they've lost 2 very, I guess, meaningful games to the program and their fans, right? So losing in the ACC tournament, and then also losing the last game of the season to their rivals. So that was a pretty big thing.
Go
Duke
Heels.
Has a lot. No, I said their rivals. Duke has a lot of issues that can get exposed. How far do you think this Duke team can go? Can they win this round? And if so, why? What about this team gives them the advantage over the team that you were talking about in Michigan State?
So I have them playing Davidson, right? I had Davidson winning the first round.
Sorry about that.
State. So I have Duke playing Davidson. So this is one of those matchups where you're like, hey, why don't you want to play us? Duke don't want to play Davidson. They really don't. They're not too far apart geographically, right? But Duke won't give Davidson a game. I think they're ducking them. I think this comes back to bite them. I think Davidson wins this game. We saw Duke lose against a scrappy Virginia Tech team in the ACC tournament. Also, my Tar Heels lost to that same team. So I saw them several times just beating people, running out, being scrappy. I know that Duke can be outworked, and as much talent as they have, they can be kind of overwhelmed by teams that are just more aggressive and play with more energy. So I'm going to say that happens. So I'm going to have Davidson winning.
All right. So you can hear the haterade in his throat.
I needed to pick Duke to lose at some point. It wasn't going to be in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I have the sinuses, but you got the haterade, so it's all right, man. It's all right. No, you're fine. So I do understand what Jeremy's saying. You know, one of the things that Jeremy did last year was he called out a game. It's like, yo, those in-state rivalries, man, you never know, man. That's how it goes. They just come to show up. And as you've been saying, Duke and Davidson, like I said, Davidson's a strong team, man. I barely had Michigan State beating them just because of the point guard play. But again, I think Duke is very strong. The biggest issue for me is just they're young and inexperienced, and it shows in key moments. And I think that's the biggest thing with Duke. They don't really know how to really put that foot forward in key moments right now. And that's going to be something that they have to understand how to do. Maybe it's going to be this tournament. I guess it's going to have to be this tournament because after this, there's going to have like 3 people that are going to be gone. You know what I mean? 3 of their key young core, they're all going to be gone. So I like the way that a lot of them play. I think Ben Carroll is solid, but he's not that guy that needs to be leading them at the end of the game. He needs to do all his work throughout the game. And then at the end, I think Griffin is a very desirable option, even though he runs really, really awkwardly. Not sure what's going on with him. I'm like, man, is this dude running or what's going on? But you know, hey, he gets it done. Like, hey, he has a knack for big plays. He has a knack for scoring. He has a knack for those moments. So I think it's really going to be about if the game is close, then Duke is going to struggle if they don't understand their leadership, if they don't understand how they can win close games. And that's going to be their challenge in this tournament. And that's going to limit how far they're able to go. So for me personally, being a Duke fan, in addition to Purdue, I'm going to go ahead and go with Duke to win this game over Davidson or Michigan State. So I'll say that right now. Cool. Awesome. All right. So now I'm going back and forth with this Gonzaga-Memphis game. It's like, man. Dang.
I thought you had Memphis winning, right?
I did.
So it's Memphis, Arkansas?
Memphis, Arkansas. Yeah. So the hard thing, right, is because I feel like if Gonzaga is able to beat Memphis, then they have a chance to go to the Final Four, right? But that's a big if. So this is going to be that bracket breaking type of game. If Memphis can beat Gonzaga, which is a hard number one, man, like they're tough, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, Jeremy, who do you have in this game? Who do you have in your game against Gonzaga versus? Who do you have? Gonzaga versus?
I have Gonzaga and UConn.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Gonzaga. It's gonna be one of those things. You know how it is. Like when a team wins a championship, there's always going to be a close game or two, and then they come back and then they, stomp another team, just showing like, hey, that last game was a fluke. So I say that they're going to come back in this next round against UConn and really put the hammer down.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things. Let me check one last thing, see what I think about this one. All right. I'm gonna keep my Memphis pick. I'm gonna say I'm keeping my Memphis pick. Memphis is gonna be one of those teams through the tournament that I'm hoping shows up. Sorry, this thing won't click off. I'm using somebody else's tablet, so I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. All right, so Memphis versus Arkansas. I got Memphis winning this one as well, to go to the Sweet 16. This would be a 9 seed that beat a number 1 seed. If they can beat them, I definitely think that they can beat Arkansas. Again, Memphis defense is very tough and nasty, and I think that they have something to prove. They've had an interesting schedule. They lost a lot of conference games, but they've been through adversity. They've been able to figure it out, and it'd be a really good story if Memphis is able to win this one. So again, I'm going to go with Memphis to win this game. The next game that we have is Texas Tech versus Duke. Man,
you have that. I have Alabama Davidson.
He has Alabama Davidson. So we're all off. We're not even close. So Texas Tech versus Duke, man. Sheesh. That is gonna be a rough one.
Yeah, if Duke's run doesn't end in the second round, it ends here, right?
It's tough, man. Yeah, it's gonna be a close game. See, this is where your fanhood and the teams that should win kind of kind of like mash, right? And it's kind of like, wow, Texas Tech is a very solid team. They match up really well against Duke. I think that I'm gonna go with Duke. That's it. I'm done. I'm going with Duke.
All right, and Coach I have Alabama Davidson.
Coach K is not getting put out in the second round for sure in his final season.
I mean, it's happened. It's happened enough.
Not this year. Not this year.
So I have Alabama and Davidson in this Sweet 16 matchup, and I am going to go with Alabama to win against Davidson. I'm going to go with the toughness and the high flying Alabama team to beat the smaller conference team. You know, these things happen where these smaller conference teams can, you know, have a great run, but Steph Curry is no longer on Davidson, so I don't think they got what it takes. I'm going with Alabama and Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
Wow, Alabama and Gonzaga. All right, so I got Memphis and Duke. Memphis has been doing really good. I'm going to go with Duke. Duke to the Final Four. What do you got, Jeremy?
I'm going to go with Gonzaga.
Gonzaga. All right, so we're very close. Interesting. I almost had 1, 2, 3, 4 for this one, but I've had Memphis with the upset. So, I didn't really stray too far away from the from the seed. So,
I picked all my upsets later, which is probably the opposite of how it works, right? Usually, you get all your upsets in the first round. So, if you're listening and you want to pick upsets, usually do it in the first round. Don't pick your upsets in the Sweet 16.
Dude, there's been what was it, like a couple years ago? I think there was only like two first round upsets. Like there was no upsets in the like 2 first round upsets, and that was it for the whole tournament, which was pretty wild. So, it could happen this year. It could happen.
Yeah,
man. It definitely could. This next game, Baylor versus Norfolk State. This is a challenging one. You know, I think Baylor has the upper hand, but Baylor's one of those teams where sometimes they can be up and sometimes they can be down. You get totally different teams from Baylor. I definitely like Kendall Brown. I think he has a lot of potential to grow. He's still fairly young, but I think this Baylor team knows how to win a little bit better. And I think that Norfolk State just isn't going to be strong enough in this sense. But again, I'm going to go ahead and go with Baylor to win this one.
Me too. I think you're right where, like, you know, Baylor was number one maybe multiple times this year. At least once they were number one, but I think I thought they might have gotten back. Either way, they were number one this year at some point, and you still didn't know if they were good. And they're kind of just riding that high off of winning last year's championship. But I do think that there is a limit to their ability this year. But it's not the first round, so they're going to win this.
Shout out to Baylor. Like I said, they have a good team, but definitely some question marks up there. The next game is North Carolina versus Marquette. I ain't even gonna hate though. I got North Carolina. I feel like North Carolina, what they've been doing recently and how they've been playing, how they've been winning, the intensity that they've been playing with, the teamwork that they've been playing with. I think that's really amazing. And I think that with that North Carolina team, and I told Jeremy this when they beat Duke, I was like, yo, they're scary. They could go pretty far in this tournament. So I'm excited to see what North Carolina does overall in this tournament. And I think they take this first game against Marquette. Jeremy, what do you think about this game with North Carolina versus Marquette?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can beat Marquette. This is the only team I know anything about, right? North Carolina. This is my team. And what I do know is that our depth is not good. We don't play a lot of our players. We have a lot of guys that are good sitting on the bench. So I think the depth is going to be a problem, and it might not show up this game, but playing 2 games in a weekend, it might show up. So it could be a factor in the future. But yeah, I think we can win. So I will choose us to win this first game, but I will watch that game tomorrow with a lot of apprehension.
I think that's one of the biggest things, as you were talking about with North Carolina. They have a really solid team, but with that depth, I think the whole game against, or the whole second half against Duke, they played their starters the whole time, and that's going to drain them down. Going against a team like Marquette is no slouch. So you're going to have to definitely come with that energy. And then having to play Baylor, which is going to be another high energy team afterwards, that's a tall task to ask for somebody that doesn't really go too far in their bench. So it'll be interesting to see how far we have North Carolina going. But again, very solid team throughout. Next game, St. Mary's versus Indiana. Man, this is interesting. Indiana won the play-in game, and St. Mary's has been doing fairly solid throughout the season, right? They had a win against Gonzaga, close game against Wisconsin, so they've done pretty solid. IU's had some pretty good wins throughout the season. Faced a lot of tough competition in the Big Ten. What are you thinking with this game? Does Indiana have a chance to upset St. Mary's, or is this going to be one where it's just too much, too little, too late for the Indiana Hoosiers?
I think that when I saw IU play, was it last night? I think that they looked like they were good. I mean, they're a good team. They looked like a cohesive team and everything, but I don't know if their talent is super great. And they kind of struggled a little bit in that game with Wyoming. So I don't know. I think St. Mary's just being pretty tough competition for Gonzaga. I mean, they beat them already. Maybe that wasn't Gonzaga's best night, but they've been able to beat the best team in the country, or maybe the best team in the country. So I think I'm going to go with St. Mary's on this one. I'm not going to pick the upset. I'm going to say that at some point, a team from a smaller conference, quote unquote, we'll stand up and say, hey, just because you're in the Big Ten doesn't mean you're better than us. But it's good to see Steve Harvey back on the sideline and coaching our alma mater. So it's nice.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me in this game, I'm going to go ahead and pick IU, by the way, but I think IU has a very solid team. I think St. Mary's is solid throughout. IU's biggest issue, I don't think they have the consistency as far as shooters, and since they don't have that consistency as far as shooters, that's going to be the thing that hurts them the most. Their biggest thing is they need to make sure that they're playing defense, because I think that that's one thing that can kind of hold St. Mary's back a little bit if they're able to do it. It's going to be a tough game, and I definitely see St. Mary's having the advantage, but for some reason, I think that IU might pull it out. But then there's this other part in my head that's like, yeah, IU's going to lose by 12. So I'm going to go ahead and go with IU to pull the upset. It'd be a good story if IU was able to actually make it and win that first game versus St. Mary's. Again, their biggest thing is they need to make sure they have scoring. If not, they're going to have a hard road. But I think Mike Woodson has been doing a really good job. Jeremy called him Steve Harvey, but yeah, Mike Woodson is a really, really solid coach. The next game, UCLA versus Akron. I was about to say UCLA versus Archon, but UCLA versus Akron, right? UCLA team is bringing back a lot of their players from last year, maybe all of their starters, right? They made it really far last year. They're going against this Akron team that is from Ohio, the birthplace of LeBron-ish. And what do you think about this game?
UCLA last year could have won the championship. They started in the first four, came all the way through. I think they're just a more experienced team. They've had a pretty good season this year, and I'll take them to beat Archon.
Oh, nice. Locked up. They won't let you out. All right. I'm also going to go with UCLA. I think that their team strength is just going to be a little bit stronger. So UCLA over Archon. Next game, Texas versus Virginia Tech. We saw what Virginia Tech did in the ACC. We've seen how they've been playing recently. Texas has had a fairly strong team at different moments throughout the season. Jeremy, who are you picking in this game? One thing about Texas, 3-8 versus top 25 teams, which is a huge thing, but they also play in an interesting conference with Gonzaga and Kansas and Baylor and Texas Tech. So what are you thinking with this game, Jeremy?
I think it's interesting that the ACC tournament champion gets an 11 seed. Clearly, they were not going to make the tournament otherwise, right? Like, I don't know. It seemed like, hey, if they didn't get that automatic bid, who knows? But they've been playing really well. They've been hot. And when you go through and win a major conference tournament, you're playing really well. So I'm going to go with Virginia Tech, if only because at least I've seen them play.
I'm also going to go with Virginia Tech to pull the upset here. Again, like I feel like the seniors that Virginia Tech has and the energy that they're coming in is definitely huge. It does hurt sometimes when you make a long run like that and you have a lot of energy and now you have to get it all back together in a new location to compete in a whole new tournament against a team that is strong, that's played against a lot of tough competition, right? Texas is not going to be a slouch in this game. I feel like they're almost the underdog in a sense. And I feel like that plays to Texas. But again, I think I'm going to go with Virginia Tech on this game. So we'll see what happens. But it should be a good game between Texas and Virginia Tech. The next game that we have is Purdue versus Yale. Jeremy, what are you thinking with this game?
I told you, man, I was in New Haven like last week. I didn't even know Yale was going to make the tournament. They'd probably already won their conference tournament when I was there too. But 14-3 upset, not very common. I don't think it's going to happen. There were times when Purdue looked like probably the best team in the country, right? And you know better than I, probably better than anyone. So I'm going to go with Purdue. I think their highest level is pretty high, even though did they lose the conference championship game?
Iowa.
Did they lose that game? I don't remember.
Yeah, they lost to Iowa.
Okay, yeah. But I mean, we've all thought Purdue could have been the best team in the country. And like maybe this is their Final Four year, but I'm going with Purdue definitely.
Yeah, I'll take Purdue in this game as well. I'll talk a little bit more about them in the next round. I think they have like the advantage over Yale. But maybe I won't even get to see them in the second round. This is one of the teams that I think either has a chance to make it to the Final Four or to the second round, and they're probably gonna lose in one of those two, just because of their limitations. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But our next game is going to be Murray State versus San Francisco. So what are you thinking about San Francisco and Murray State?
Man, I think Ja Morant is the truth, so he'll lead his team. I don't actually know who's on Murray State this year or anything, but they're higher ranked. So you know what? I don't know though, but San Francisco's been good. They beat Davidson this year. A lot of people thought San Francisco was actually underseeded. I heard so. This could be a good matchup, better than you think. Murray State 30 wins on the year. Maybe they've got a little bit of the pedigree. They're the higher seed. I've said a lot of random conflicting things, but I'm gonna go with Murray State.
Yeah, I also thought about going with San Francisco on this one. I think that they have a very solid team this season, so it could be interesting to see how they do. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go with Murray State. I'm going with the team that wins. Winners win. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Murray State. The next game is Kentucky versus St. Peter's. I'm going to go with Kentucky in this one. I think Kentucky has been pulling out really strong at the end of the season, and they really showed what their team can be. They're not even at full strength, but they're doing a really good job. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Kentucky for this game.
Yeah, is Kentucky ever going to be at full strength? I've heard rumors that they're not.
No, they won't be.
They're always going to have injury.
Well, one of their players that came early in the season, he graduated early from high school, Shadon Sharp or something like that, Sharp, whatever his name is. There was a thought that he was going to play. He might be a top 5 draft pick in the NBA, but he's going to be held out for the rest of the season. So they're not necessarily going to have him. So that's going to be one of the things to keep in mind. But they have a really strong team throughout. So I think Kentucky wins this game. The next game up, we have Baylor versus North Carolina. So, Jeremy, does North Carolina have enough energy after playing their starters for the whole game to do the same thing and run it back against Baylor?
Against a team that will push the tempo. If you saw how we played in the ACC tournament, you see that our weakness is going to be teams that know how to pressure us, how to speed us up, how to get us tired. Because, yeah, I think if we're going to win, we have to play like the last couple of UConn teams that won, like that Shabazz Napier team, that Kemba Walker team. I'm talking about great interior defense, very efficient offense because you have one guy that takes all the shots. You remember those teams? Those were really fun teams to watch because somehow they just knew how to control the game and win. It was not a fun game to watch, but they were fun teams to watch, in my opinion, like to figure out how they were doing it. We're not that because we don't have that interior defense. We don't have the scrappiness. So, no, we're not going to beat Baylor, I don't think. And it might not matter who this other team was because we just might not have the depth to win 2 games on the same weekend anyway. So I'm going with Baylor.
I'm actually going with North Carolina. I like your coach. Coach is a cool dude. Baylor has a lot of ability, but they're also they also play young sometimes, and they don't know how to get themselves out of trouble. So for me, I'm going to go with North Carolina. I think that they're just going to have that a little bit of that edge, enough in the tank. They've tasted a little bit of victory, and I feel like they want more. So I have North Carolina going a little bit further than Germany this year.
Here's the one thing, though. Here's the one thing. We really don't have any leadership. We don't have any strong leadership. Like when you question who our leaders are, it's just kind of hard to figure out who they are. UNC needs a good point guard. That's like traditionally what we need, a really good point guard. That's where all of our leadership comes from. And the person that's been our point guard all year kind of isn't a great decision maker at point guard. So we've had another guy. We've had RJ Davis, who should be handling the ball more, and he's kind of stepped into the point guard role. Whereas Caleb Love, who's been the starter for the past 2 years, he's just not been very efficient at point guard. So I think down the stretch, we haven't really had leadership in the way that we needed it. And Armando Bacot might be our best player and most important player, but he's not really that leader that you want, right? Like down the stretch, he's just not galvanizing the team or taking over and scoring a bucket. So for the teams that we've had that have won championships the last, 12 years, 13 years, we're missing that kind of key ingredient. It's always been a point guard that's just been taken over, right? That said, I will not let the team lose. And we just don't have that this year. And until we get that, we're not really going to be that great for the next few years.
Yeah, I like you said, I think Bacot is a next level type of player, like with some of the things that he does. And he may not necessarily be that leader, but hopefully they're able to feed off the energy that he brings. I think the biggest thing for him is just making sure he stays out of foul trouble because they need him on the floor. As Jeremy mentioned, the depth there is definitely going to be an issue. So I think that it's really going to ride on him, not necessarily being that leader, but setting the tone for the team and staying out of foul trouble. If he's able to do that, then North Carolina definitely has a chance. Again, he's going to be going against some athletic guys. Like I said, Kendall Brown is very good as a defensive player. He can block shots, he can run the floor. So that's one thing that North Carolina won't have going for them in this game. So, hey, North Carolina pulling the upset over Baylor, but it's going to be a tough one.
If we have a player that goes off for 30, then I would agree we win. But I don't know if we have a player capable of going off for 30.
We'll remember that one. The next game that we have is Indiana versus UCLA. This game is going to be interesting. I have Indiana. Jeremy had St. Mary's, right?
Yep.
So St. Mary's versus UCLA. We said UCLA was a better team, I think, than UCLA is a better team than Indiana. So I'll go ahead and choose UCLA to win this game over Indiana. Jeremy, what are you thinking for this one?
Yeah, I think UCLA wins. I have them beating St. Mary's, but I think they win. UCLA is going to be a tough team. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to somehow have enough talent to make the shots that matter down the stretch, like we saw last tournament. So I think they can win.
UCLA is again trying to add the momentum and get back to where they were last year and settle some unfinished business. They have a lot of really good players, so I definitely think they can go fairly far this season. The next game that we have is Virginia Tech versus Purdue, the 11 versus the 3 seed. So Jeremy, I'll start this one off and just talk about Purdue real quick. Purdue, really good team. I don't think that their coach makes enough in-game adjustments. He's not communicating enough. They often look lost on the floor, like they have no idea what the play is or where they should be in position. They have a really bad situation when they try to do help defense. It always leaves somebody open. So if they play against a team that's able to hit three-pointers, then it's going to be tough for them. They have one of the top efficiency offenses in the country. However, their defense is lacking a ton. Zach Edey is a really big force down low, but the problem is that he's not quick enough to guard people on the pick and roll. And he also is very limited with his lateral movement. Inside, he's a really good player that's able to, on the offensive end, he's a really good player inside that's able to score over anybody as long as he gets positioned in the right way. Trevion Williams is another one of those players that Purdue is going to have to lean on heavily. He's another one of those power forwards that when down low, he has the ability to see the whole floor and get everyone involved. He also has a ton of low post moves that's definitely going to help out. But he has to make sure that he's consistent and make sure that he's getting people involved. If Sasha Stefanovic can get some open 3 looks, that'll be good. You want to definitely get him started early. And then Ivy is a really good shooting guard, but he's more of a slasher. He's more of a person that doesn't necessarily play within the game's style. He just kind of does his thing. And I think that that's going to be one of the limitations. If he starts to get lost, or if he starts to get stopped, or if he starts to drive in and then turns over the ball, which we've seen a lot in the Big Ten tournament, that's going to be something that plays to the hand of a team like Virginia Tech that has a ton of experience. So for Purdue, they have a lot of issues that are limiting them. They have a lot of things that are going for them. Eric Hunter Jr. is a really solid, I'll say he's more of a 2 than a 1. He brings up the ball, which I don't really like too much, but he's probably one of the better options out of the people that we have. He does make open 3-point shots, which is really good. And I think the key glue to it all is going to be Mason Gillis. He does a really good job of doing a little bit of everything. He fights, he's aggressive, he gets rebounds, he hits open threes, he goes for turnovers. So if he can stay out of foul trouble and hit a couple open threes, then I think Purdue has a really good shot of going fairly far this season. So for me, on a hope and a prayer, I'm going to take Purdue over Virginia Tech. Jeremy, what are you thinking about this specific game?
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think even though Virginia Tech is really scrappy, I don't think Virginia Tech can compete down low with Purdue. So I think that is where Purdue has an advantage. But, on the perimeter, anything can happen. And Virginia Tech's guards are really good at getting to the rim and dumping the ball off. But I do think that that inside presence of Purdue can be enough of a factor. And Purdue can also still score points to match Virginia Tech. So if Virginia Tech doesn't hit shots, it's going to be a problem. Whereas I think Purdue's going to have less problems scoring points in general. So Purdue.
Jeremy's going to go with Purdue. I'm going with Purdue. The next game that we have is Murray State versus Kentucky, the 7 versus 2. I'm going to go ahead and go with Kentucky on this one. Like I said, I like the energy that they've been playing with. I like what they've been able to do at this point in the season. Murray State's been pretty solid, only losing 2 games this season. So I know this game is going to be very competitive. But Jeremy, what are your thoughts overall on this game?
Yeah, this is another one of those in-state rivalry games, and we've seen it before. Murray State can play Kentucky close because, in-state games, that type of thing. So I think I'll still go with Kentucky. Not really knowing a lot, honestly, about either. But, 30 wins, like you said, winners win. That could be a real problem for Kentucky. But I'll go with Kentucky right now. I'll go with the chalk matchup here. So Kentucky wins to play Purdue.
All right, nice. Next game that we have is in the Elite Eight. So Jeremy has Baylor versus UCLA. I have North Carolina versus UCLA. Jeremy, who are you picking to win this game? Are you going with the Baylor young and gun running team, or are you going to go with the UCLA experience that took them to the Final Four? No, wait, was it championship?
Yeah, Final Four.
Final Four last year.
So I will go with UCLA. I will go with the experience. Being old helps a lot. It might not help a lot in a lot of arenas. I don't know, but college basketball, if you can manage to get a team that sticks around, even if they're not top flight NBA talent, the way they play together and their experience can take them really far. UCLA has a lot of experienced guys that know how to get clutch buckets. So I'm going to go with UCLA here against a Baylor team that's really good, that would have dominated them last year. But it's just, they don't have all the same people and they don't have the same experience. So I'm going with UCLA.
How many seniors does North Carolina have playing for them right now?
Seniors.
Yeah.
Seniors. Do we have any? We have Brady Manick, who transferred from Oklahoma.
All right.
And that's all I could think of.
All right. Well, I was going to go with North Carolina on this one, but since Jeremy told me that they have no seniors, I'm going to go ahead and switch that to UCLA. So I'm going to go UCLA versus Purdue. UCLA to win this game. And then the next game, Purdue and Kentucky, I have Purdue winning that one as well. Purdue has the issue of playing down to their competition, but I don't think that they're going to be able to do that against Kentucky. So this is actually going to be a very energetic game that goes to the wire, but I think Purdue is actually going to do a lot better. One thing that I didn't mention about Purdue earlier this season, I think earlier when we were talking, I think they lost 6 games this season before the tournament. And all of those games, I think 4 of those games were on a last-second shot. Like literally, they lost on a last-second shot, 4 out of the 6 games. So they could have easily only lost 2 games in the regular season. But because of bad coaching and playing down to their opponents, they lost 6, right? So I think that because Kentucky is good, because they can't just go in there as it is, I think Purdue has a good shot of upsetting Kentucky in this specific game.
So I'm going to go with Kentucky in that matchup. I think, Purdue probably could beat them on any given day, but I'm just going to go with saying that right now Kentucky just has they have obviously a national player at the end of the day who is kind of older, and that helps. And so that'll help as far as that matchup down low. And maybe, Kentucky uses the athleticism and the mostly youth. So I think we'll go with that. And let's say that they're healthy enough. So I'll go with Kentucky.
It's funny. I was just thinking, I was like, if I would have had Indiana beating UCLA, then I would have had people in all of these brackets. I know people that go or went to North Carolina. I went to IU. I went to Purdue, and I have another really good friend that's a Kentucky fan as well. So this is going to be a fun bracket for me, the East. So I'm excited to see what happens. The next game we have is UCLA versus Purdue. I'm going to go ahead and go with Purdue with this one again. I feel like they play up to their potential. Or sorry,
this is the Final Four year.
Yeah, so Purdue's going to go to the Final Four here. I feel like the biggest trap game for them is going to be that Virginia Tech game. The Yale one's going to be kind of hard. They're going to slip up and let Yale kind of come back late. The Virginia Tech game, they're going to have to fight with grit to win that one. The Kentucky one, I feel like they're going to win that one by like 12 easy. I think the one against UCLA, it's going to be another one where they come in strong and they're starting to get it together. I feel like they'll get UCLA in trouble defensively. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Purdue over UCLA to win that game.
And I'll have UCLA beat Kentucky to go to the Final Four. I'm going to just go with the experience again. And, all else fails, I think everything's even. I'll take the more experienced team in the tournament.
Cool. Sounds good to me. The next game that we have is in our South bracket. So we have Arizona versus Wright State. So Arizona has been doing amazing this season. Wright State just won the play-in game. They've only lost one game versus the top 25, but that is also the only game that they played against the top 25, and that was against Purdue, who beat them by 44 points. So with that said, Jeremy, who are you going to go with? The losers to Purdue, or are you going to go with Arizona?
I'll go with Arizona because if you lose to Purdue, obviously you're a terrible team. So that doesn't really bode well for Wright State. So I'm going to go with Arizona. Arizona, some people think, could be the best team in the country. I don't think they'll have problems with Wright State. So I haven't seen Arizona play. I've just heard so much about them. I know people that are big Arizona fans, so I hear about it, but I haven't seen them play. And I'm looking forward to being able to see them play.
They have a shooting guard named forgot his first name, but his last name's Mathurin. Yo, this dude is nasty. Like he kind of reminds me of almost of an Andre Iguodala-ish type of vibe, but a little bit better. So he's long, he's super athletic, can dunk on anybody, can hit the threes. Sometimes he has that iffy thing, but when he gets going, he's really good. He can also pass it, so he gets his teammates oops. He's a really solid player. I'm actually excited to see how he does in this tournament because I feel like not enough people really know about him and know how good he is. But again, another really, really amazing person that's gonna really do a lot in this tournament. So I'm gonna go with Arizona to win this game. How about this next one? TCU versus Seton Hall. Who are you going with, Jeremy?
Oh, this one's a toss-up. I don't even know, man. I don't know. Let me see what the stats say about them. Let's see. I don't know. I feel like I should go with TCU because I need to pick more upsets anyway.
I'll go with TCU. You can go with
Jamie
TCU.
Dixon? Sure. I'll go with TCU.
All right, cool. We're going to go with TCU and Jamie Dixon to win this game. Next game, we have Houston versus UAB. I'm going to go with this Houston team. I like what they bring. So I'm going to go ahead and just go with the Houston team in this one. What about you, Jeremy?
Houston, you say?
Houston.
Yeah, I'll go with Houston too. Apparently, Houston hadn't had a quad one win until the championship game of their conference. So some teams that got punished for their weak schedule or not winning very, very many, very important good games, they hadn't won against a good team, supposedly based on the quad system, until they won their conference tournament championship. So just a thought, but I'm going to go with Houston too.
Yeah, and they're similar to Purdue in saying that they lost to a lot of good teams by close, right? They lost to Wisconsin by 2. They lost to Alabama. At Alabama by 1. They won at Memphis, but lost twice to Memphis. And we know how hot Memphis is right now, especially since they're going to be making the Final Four, or however far ahead I'm going. So they're doing a really good job, and they were in the Final Four last year. So again, this Houston team has a lot of experience that's going to help them out. So I'm not going to put anything past them. The next game that we have is Illinois versus Chattanooga. So Tennessee versus Illinois. What are you thinking with this one, Jeremy?
I'll go with Illinois. We'll go with that. Wasn't Illinois supposed to win the championship last year according to us? I know they have a different different few people. They lost some players, but they were supposed to be the best team in the country last year. We were all excited. So I'll go with Illinois.
They were tripping. This year they have a pretty solid team. They need to make sure that they stay out of foul trouble, and they need to get a lot of contributions from their point guard positions. So I think that that's going to be the biggest thing for Illinois this year. So I have them going over Chattanooga, but I think that it'll be a little bit it'll be an interesting game to watch for sure. The next game is Colorado State versus Michigan. So Jeremy doesn't even think Michigan should be in the tournament. Their coach punched the dude in the mouth. It is what it was.
He didn't really punch a dude in the mouth.
He slapped him in the face.
Did he connect?
Yeah, he connected. You didn't see that? You didn't see that?
Yeah, I'm really surprised that he didn't get fired for that. You can't just be swinging on people. It doesn't matter if you hit or not. You can't just be swinging on people like that. I'll go with Colorado State. I don't know, man. Michigan has been up and down, 17-14, not particularly great. Colorado State, again, they don't have the big conference resume. They did beat St. Mary's though, so that's something. St. Mary's is great, right? And I'll go with Colorado State again. Yeah, I don't really like the whole Michigan season anyway. And yes, they lost. The funny thing was, some people were like really happy Phil Martelli was coaching the team. I was like, I wonder how unified that team is if when Phil Martelli was coaching for Michigan, they're really happy about it.
Honestly, it's interesting. I don't know. Like, I want to choose Michigan for this one because I've seen them play. I've seen their tenacity. I've seen how good their center can be. And he can do a lot of things. But man, Colorado State has they got some dogs, Jeremy. Colorado State got some dogs. The dogs is back. So I guess I should have said that they had some Rams. Colorado State has some Rams, bruh. Like the Rams is back. So I guess I'll go with Colorado State to win this one too. I initially had Michigan, but I'll switch that up. I like a lot of the players. I like some of the players that Colorado State has. So I'll just I'll go with them. Watch out for David Rudy, bro. He's the one that I was saying is kind of like Ron Harper Jr. Big body, can like make turnaround jumpers, can like hit threes and transition. So search him after this one, after this is over, and then you can kind of let me know what you think about him. The next game that we have is Tennessee versus Longwood. Me personally, I only prefer Shortwood. No, I'm just playing. But let's go with Tennessee for this one. I think Tennessee's interesting. They have a lot of ability, but sometimes they kind of annoy me a little bit with how they play, and I don't think that that's one of the things that I like. Their point guard, short, makes plays, but sometimes kind of iffy. But I'll go ahead with Tennessee to win this game over Longwood. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah. A lot of people think Tennessee could have been a number 1 seed, and then they dropped all the way down to number 3. So their road is a little bit tougher, but the team is still the same. They won the SEC tournament, so they're a good team, and I think they'll easily beat Longwood and on to Colorado State.
While we speak, Chris Goodwin just got a 3-year deal for $60 million. So interesting to see. I don't even think he's playing this next year. So shout out to him for making that money. I have no idea how much is guaranteed though. So the next game that we have is Ohio State versus Loyola Chicago. Is it happening, Jeremy? Are we going to get that upset right here? What do you think?
I'm going to go with no on this one. I'm going to say no this year. I mean, Loyola Chicago, doesn't matter how good they are, they're not going to get a high seed anyway. So they can win from any seeding position. But, this is they don't have the same coaches as in years past, right? They're still good, but let's just say the Magic's not there this year. I don't know if it's there, but I'm going to go with that it's not there. Played Michigan State, played Auburn close, beat San Francisco. So they've had some good wins, but I'm going to say Ohio State wins this game.
So I'm not sure where I sit with Ohio State. I feel like Ohio State is kind of good, but they also have their issues. And I think that that's one of the things that is iffy for me. I think no matter who wins this game, they're going to end up getting beat in the next round. So for the sake of history, let's go ahead and go with Loyola Chicago to pull the upset right here. With that said, I'm also taking Villanova to win the next game, and I'm also taking Villanova to win Loyola Chicago, or to beat Loyola Chicago. So I just threw all of those in there. What do you think about the next game, Jeremy, with Villanova and Delaware?
Sure, I'll take Villanova to beat Delaware. Sure.
Okay, awesome.
I'll keep it moving.
Nice. What about Arizona versus TCU? Again, for me, I'm going with Arizona. They have a high-flying team that's fun to watch. So I'm going to go with them to beat TCU in this one. What about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll go with Arizona too.
Awesome. Next game that we have up is going to be Houston versus Illinois. We talked about both of these teams. We talked about Houston's experience getting to the Final Four. We talked about Illinois supposedly having a chance to be there with them last year, but not coming through. And I talked about some of the limitations of Illinois' team. Jeremy, who are you taking in this game, the number 4 versus the number 5, by the way?
I'll go with Illinois to win this one. I'll say that some of the best games that Houston has are losses. So I'm going to say that they lose again to Illinois. So I know Houston has an impressive 29-5 record, but let's say that I'm going to say Illinois wins.
For me, I'm actually going to go with Houston in this one. I think Houston does a really good job. Again, defensively, they're a very solid defensive team. I think Illinois sometimes has issues scoring. I love they have I forgot what his name is, but he's a 3-point shooter. He always is making transition 3-point shots. I think that's going to be amazing, but I think this Houston defense is going to try to take that away. They also have their big man, I think it's Cockburn or something like that gets a lot of rebounds for Cockburn, that gets a lot of rebounds for Illinois. But if he doesn't stay out of foul trouble, which he's had issues with at certain times of the season, not necessarily often, but at certain times, I think that could be one of those things. So Houston has that defense that can kind of frustrate a team. Illinois is not necessarily that good on offense consistently throughout the season. So I think that I'm going to give the win to Houston in this game. The next game that we have is Colorado State versus Tennessee. Jeremy, you said that he's probably going to go with Tennessee. At least that's what I heard in my head. What are you thinking for this game, Jeremy?
You're right. You did hear that correctly in your head. I'm going to go with Tennessee. Like I said, Tennessee rated as one of the better teams in the country. So I'm going to go with that. Tennessee wins and beats Colorado State.
Yeah, there's just something about Tennessee that hasn't impressed me the way that I would have liked them to. Man, I'm going to go with the upset right here and go with Colorado State over Tennessee. So I'm circling this one as another upset. I already said that I have Villanova beating Loyola. Jeremy, what do you think about Villanova versus Ohio State?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Villanova there too. I'll have them beating Ohio State. Villanova, again, they're always going to be scrappy. They're always going to somehow figure out ways to win. And I'll put some faith in them to beat Ohio State.
So again, Jeremy's going with Villanova over Ohio State. The next game that we have is Arizona versus Houston. I'm going to go with Arizona for this one. Again, I like Arizona's team. I like what they have, and I think that they have some dynamic players that can really take them to the next level. What do you think about Illinois versus Arizona for you, Jeremy?
So Illinois and Arizona, I'll go with Arizona to win. I think, again, Arizona rated as one of the best teams in the country. They got up to number 2. So I think they can pull out this win against Illinois. Maybe tough, but they can win this game. So I'll go with Arizona.
Jeremy's going with Arizona. I'm going with Arizona. So we both have Arizona going to the Elite 8. The next game is Tennessee versus Villanova for Jeremy. I'm also going to have Villanova beating Colorado State. I think it'll be a good game, but I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Villanova because of some of the things that Jeremy said with that scrappiness. I think they just have the advantage when you're talking about being in a competition where defense is definitely going to win, and you need to make sure that you're frustrating people on the opposite side of the ball. So I'm going to go with Villanova to win this game. Jeremy, how about you?
So I'm going to have Tennessee Villanova in this game, right? And I'm going to take Tennessee to win. I'm going to go with the fact that Tennessee has the resume that shows that they're a really good team, even if their seeding doesn't. And when you get to this point, it doesn't matter what your seeding is. It just matters, can you win? I'm going to say Tennessee does. And so it'll be Tennessee and Arizona matching up in the Elite 8 for me.
Okay, cool. Just to say, Villanova beat Tennessee by 18 earlier this year. So we'll keep that in mind as well. And that was at
Tennessee. Hey, man, maybe I'm completely wrong, but hey, I'm going to go with it.
Completely wrong. Next game, Arizona versus Tennessee for Jeremy. Arizona versus Villanova for me. I'm going to go ahead and stay with Arizona to win this game over Villanova. What are you thinking, Jeremy, with Arizona versus Tennessee?
You know what? I'm gonna go with Tennessee again. I'm gonna ride Tennessee.
Ooh.
Don't ask me why. Got to pick the upsets. Got to do it. So I'm going with Tennessee.
Walking in Memphis. All right, let's
Yeah.
go.
I mean, hey, does Arizona have some sort of pedigree I don't know about? Hey, they're just as, Tennessee, Arizona, they're the same. Pretty much the same. Since
All
Lute
right,
Olson
cool.
left.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. So now let's go down to the Midwest. So the Midwest is going to start out with Kansas versus Texas Southern. I'm going to go with Kansas right here. I'm just going to put Kansas down for Jeremy as well. The next game, San Diego State versus Creighton.
Hold up. Before we get too far, Will Wade, right? LSU is in this side of the bracket, so we can talk about it. Will Wade got fired, or he will get fired, or whatever, because of those allegations and that are coming down about paying players. Was Bill Self somehow involved? I thought Bill Self was involved in that.
He was originally. There was something about Bill Self paying. Dang, did he even play? I can't remember if he played. DeAndre.
No. Souza, no. Was it Souza or something like that? Silvio, or was it D'Souza?
Yeah, D'Souza. Yeah, D'Souza. Yeah. That's who it was.
And nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Oh, okay.
I think he might have got like a fine or something like that, or couldn't coach for some game. But yeah, nothing crazy happened.
Okay, all right. I thought that it was something with I thought he was involved in that scandal. He apparently is good.
He is, because he wins. He wins big. So
yeah,
it's a difference. Winners get treated different than losers.
Yeah, he wins the Big 12 every year. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna go with Kansas for this one. Next game, Creighton versus San Diego State. Actually a very interesting game. Jeremy, who are you picking for this game, by the way?
I don't know, man. I don't know anything about either one of these teams. Not really that much difference in their record. Let's see. Creighton scores a little bit more points, but San Diego State allows like no points. So it's hard to say, man. You know what? I'm going to go with Creighton. Creighton has played a lot of tough teams, even though San Diego State's played that Mountain West competition, which is great. But I'm going to go with Creighton. I got to pick upsets. I'll go with this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with San Diego State, right? San Diego State probably would have had a higher seed if they would have won that game, but they lost by, one point or something like that. So, again, it was a last-minute type of situation. But I think San Diego State has had a strong season throughout. They played a lot of really good competition. So I'm going to go ahead and give them the win for this one. The next game that we have is Iowa versus Richmond. I've been really impressed with what Iowa's been able to do throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Iowa. I think that they know how to bring the tenacity, especially as of late. They're only 2-5 versus top 25 teams, which has to worry a lot of people. But if you look at their wins, they won once against Purdue. They lost twice. Again, Purdue's a really good team. They lost twice against Illinois. They beat Ohio State. They lost to Wisconsin by 9. One against Michigan, one against Indiana, twice. Iowa State and Michigan State, they won against Michigan State by like 26 and lost to Iowa State. But again, overall, they're a very, very solid team, especially right now. I feel like they're in their flow. And if they can keep that up, then they have a really good shot to surprise some teams in this tournament. Who are you going with in this game, Jeremy? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go with Iowa too. 5-12. People want a 5-12. I don't know if we've had one of those upsets picked yet. You picked Indiana over St. Mary, so we've had one. But I'm going to go with Iowa to win this one. There were times when Iowa did look like a really good team, but they weren't exactly that all year. They won the Big Ten, so that they've got it in them. So I'll go with Iowa.
Yeah, check them out, man. Keegan Murray is a really solid player. His brother is whatever, but Keegan Murray is a really solid player. They also have a couple of guys that can really stretch the floor from distance, and they actually are really, again, like they're in their flow right now. They've been winning a lot of games. They've been putting together a really good part of the end of their season. So shout out to Iowa for doing what they've done so far. The next game that we have is Providence versus South Dakota State. What are you thinking, Jeremy?
So this one I think is going to be interesting because South Dakota State, 21 straight wins. Providence has been, they won the Big Big East regular season, but didn't win the tournament. Didn't beat Villanova. Kind of a tough one, but they've played really well. So the question is, do you take what's the hot team, or do you take a major-ish conference team winner? I don't know. Maybe I'll go San Diego State here. I got to pick upsets. I'm going to go San Diego State, 21-game win streak.
State. There we go.
Winners with blah blah blah. What did I say? San Diego?
Yeah.
I meant Creighton. I'm gonna go with South Dakota State because they've had that 21 game win streak. You said winners win. I'm gonna go with that same logic. Winners win. So I'll have South Dakota State winning.
So South Dakota State has lost one less game than Providence this season. By the way, just putting that out there. I think South Dakota.
Yeah, I know, but they've won 5 more.
Yeah. They know how to put up points. I think that's the big thing. Where South Dakota State has a chance because like they know how to score, and that's always a really good thing. I'm not necessarily sure about Providence. This definitely could be one of those upset type of situations. But I'll join Jeremy and say South Dakota. Shoot. Which one do I want to go with? I'm gonna go with Providence. I'll go with Providence for this one.
Sounds good.
Man, shoot. Yeah. I'll just go with I'll go with South Dakota State. There we go. That's fine. That's fine for me. I'm switching it up. Don't be stressed out, Jeremy. But again, I think Providence has a really good shot to win this game. It's just about those points. When you know how to score and you're coming from a different type of conference, you have to try to change around the style. In Providence, I feel like it's more focused on that aggressive, gritty type of thing. In South Dakota State's going to be more focused on just putting those points up. So I think that might be that contrast that allows South Dakota State to go ahead of Providence in this game. The next game that we have is LSU versus Iowa State. Jeremy was talking about LSU just earlier. Oh, LSU, man, they got some ballers out there too, bro. Like, I like LSU. What do you?
They were paid for, of course. Well, no.
Hey, it is what it was, man. You got.
Hey, it's the best team money can buy.
You got to pay to play.
You got to do it.
All right. So, what are you thinking with this game, Jeremy?
I don't want to pick the team without a coach. Obviously, they have someone coaching them, but they lost their actual head coach. So I'm going to say that is not good for them. I'm going to go with Iowa State. Now, of course, there's always the team is galvanized. The team is just too talented to lose. And that's probably the actual case. But, I'm going to go with Iowa State here just as a gamble.
All right, cool. Iowa State. Jeremy's going with Iowa State. I'm going to go with LSU with this one. The next game is Wisconsin versus Colgate. I'm going to go with Wisconsin. I like what they've done throughout the season, and I think that they have the upper hand. So give me Wisconsin to win this game.
All right. I also think Wisconsin will beat Colgate in a squeaker.
Squeaker. All right. Let me talk about squeakers. I'm just trying to talk about basketball, man. All right. So we got Wisconsin versus Iowa State for Jeremy and Wisconsin versus LSU for me. The next game, USC versus Miami. I don't even know, man. I think I want to go with Miami in this game. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Miami over USC. So that's just what I'm choosing for this one. How about you, Jeremy?
I'll go with USC. I think I've seen Miami a couple times. I think they're okay. I don't know. I feel like we beat them pretty good. I thought maybe I'm wrong, but let me see.
Cool, man. I got you guys.
Oh, they beat us by 28 apparently. I don't know. Who knows? Whatever. I'm gonna go with USC anyway.
I think we beat them pretty good.
I thought we did. We apparently lost. Good. Like I tell you what about USC. You guys
by 30.
Every game we play was a blowout this year until the end of the season. So somebody won big. Every game somebody won big. It just turns out I was wrong about that one.
So this Miami team beat Duke, lost to Duke, beat North Carolina by 28. They lost to Alabama by 32. They beat Virginia Tech and lost to Virginia Tech. They beat Wake Forest twice, and they lost to Notre Dame by 4. So
is beating Wake Forest a thing?
Yeah.
They put that up there like that was a thing.
Anytime you can take down a demon, especially when it's a deacon, also.
That's why we're trying to get Duke out the tournament.
You dominating. So I'm gonna go with Miami in that one. The next game we have is Auburn. Auburn versus Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State's been around a while. In my head. But outside of that, I think Auburn takes this game, man. I think Auburn is nasty, man. Like if they play right, they have a lot that they can bring to the table. So I'm going to go with Auburn for this one over Jacksonville State. What do you think, Jeremy?
I agree. How good is the SEC this year potentially? It makes no sense. Now they're somehow the best basketball conference. I don't know. But Auburn's really good. Auburn was number 1 at some point, and they were so happy about it that they gave their coach a huge extension, then they started losing. But Auburn plays every game close. I don't think this one will be close, but I think every other game after this will be close for Auburn, and we'll see how that works out for them.
Kessler. I think it's Kessler. He's really
Kessler,
good.
UNC transferred. If we had Kessler this year, UNC, we'd be way better because he's leading the nation in blocks. We have no interior defense, and he can score. He was we had a couple of good freshmen last year. He left, Dayron Sharp left, and our team was pretty much after Roy Williams retired, that changed the entire complexion of our team. So good to see Walker Kessler doing well. It's just too bad he couldn't be doing it at UNC.
He's out there dominating. Add to the mix Jabari Smith, very good player. He's still growing. He's still learning his style. So that should be interesting to see how he turns out. But I'm going to go with Auburn to win that game. I also have Auburn beating Miami as well. So we'll get back to that. But the first game that we have in the Midwest, the last of our 4 quadrants, where X is positive and Y is negative, is Kansas versus San Diego State. Jeremy, you have Kansas versus Creighton. Who are you taking in this game?
I have Kansas versus Creighton, and I have Kansas winning. Kansas, I don't know. Kansas doesn't necessarily do well against Midwestern teams. I feel like if they're going to get upset, it's going to be by some random Iowa team or something. So Creighton does fit the bill, but I'll go with Kansas this time and have them beat Creighton.
Kansas beating Creighton. I also have Kansas beating San Diego State. The next game, Iowa versus South Dakota State. Jeremy had South Dakota State pulling the upset over Providence at the beginning of our bracket. What do you have in this game against Iowa versus South Dakota State?
You know what? I'm gonna go with the winner. Winners win. South Dakota State. They're gonna be my surprise team to make it all the way to the championship game, but probably not.
Very interesting. Winners win. They know how to score, right? And that's going to be one of the things that you have to have against Iowa. The biggest thing is going to be, can Iowa play a good enough defense to hold South Dakota State to not scoring as much? If they can, and they can continue to get their points, and they should be fine. If they come in too heavy with the mindset that they're going to win, they won't win this game. But I'm going to go ahead and go with Iowa over South Dakota State. Our next game is LSU versus Wisconsin. LSU is good. They're young. They don't have a coach. For that reason, I'm going to go with Wisconsin because they're older, they're good, and they do have a coach.
I agree. I'm going to go with Wisconsin, but they're beating Iowa State in my bracket for the same reasons. They have a coach.
All right, awesome. They have a coach. All right, the next game that we have is Miami versus Auburn. I said that I already have Auburn winning this specific game. Jeremy, how about you?
I'll have Auburn winning. They're beating USC in this game, and they will go to the Sweet 16 versus Wisconsin.
Awesome. So I have Kansas versus Iowa, and Jeremy has Kansas versus South Dakota State. Jeremy, who are you taking? Is Kansas going to get beat by South Dakota State?
Not this time. I think if I ran the simulation 100 times, 99 times South Dakota would win in my bracket. But this is the bracket that I use, my version that has Kansas winning the 1% of the time.
Yeah, this is interesting. I actually have Iowa versus Kansas, and like Jeremy was talking about, sometimes Kansas they just come out flat, like they don't do enough. And I think one of the things about Iowa is that they do have some gritty defense, and they can get people in trouble. But I think Kansas has enough to beat Iowa this season. Iowa had a really good run, but Kansas is very strong. I like that their guards are a little bit more consistent on the outside, and I think that that's going to cause Iowa a little bit more problems. Next game we have is Wisconsin versus Auburn. Sheesh, man, this is tough.
Yeah, I got myself into a bit of a problem here because I'm going to pick Auburn to win this game. Can't explain it. Auburn got up to number 1, so clearly they have something in them. Every game they play is close. They somehow seem to win most of them. They lost their last one, but I'm going to go with Auburn. I'm going to say tournament Auburn is hard to play and go with them. Unfortunately, that means I have Tennessee and Auburn in the Final Four, which I don't want to have that happen, but that's what it is.
I'm going to go ahead and go with the Big Ten for this one. I'm going to have Wisconsin beating Auburn. Auburn has a really good team. I like Johnny Davis. I like what he does. He's not necessarily the most efficient person throughout, but he knows how to get to the line. I think that's going to be one of those things that holds Auburn back. If they're getting those fouls, and if he's able to get a lot of those shots and become a matchup problem, that's definitely going to play in the favor of Wisconsin. So I'm going to go with Wisconsin over Auburn in this matchup. next one that we have is Kansas versus Wisconsin. And Kansas versus Auburn. Jeremy, who are you taking in this matchup?
Like I said, I had Auburn winning. So I have Kansas and Auburn in the Elite Eight and Auburn winning to make it to the Final Four.
All right, cool. Jeremy's taking Auburn to win. This one, man, this is that tough nose game. I'm going to go with Wisconsin to actually win this one over Kansas. So they're going to pull the upset over Kansas. So now in our brackets, I have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 3 in our Final Four. So let's start with the left side of the bracket. I have Duke versus Purdue. Both of my teams, they've met before in the Sweet 16, and it's turned out that Duke ended up winning that game.
Jeremy, don't forget, they met in the women's championship game where Purdue won, right?
Yeah, that was a while ago, though.
Was that 99?
Yeah, I think 99, yeah.
Well, that was the same year I think the men lost, too. It was a good year.
See, yeah, thanks. See,
they both lost in the championship.
Purdue?
No, Duke. Both the Duke teams lost in the championship games, I think, that year.
I got you. Yeah,
it was a good year.
Okay. You're silly. So I have Duke versus Purdue. This one, I'm going to go ahead and go with Purdue, man. Like, Purdue, for some reason, I just feel like they're going to get their heads together. Either they're going to get their heads together or they're going to fall flat on their face. I think this is the perfect time for Coach K to go out. Losing to a Purdue team coached by Matt Painter that can't coach sometimes. And having at least made it to the Final Four. So I'm going to go with Purdue over Duke to make it to the national championship. Jeremy.
Yeah, it would be nice if Duke could go out in that glorious of a fashion. Unfortunately, they're losing in the second round to Davidson. So here in my bracket, I have Gonzaga and UCLA playing a rematch of the Final Four from last year, right? And Gonzaga won, and they're going to win again. So I have Gonzaga beating UCLA to make it to the championship game.
You know, it's crazy. If Purdue has to play against Gonzaga, I don't think that they have a chance. I think that Gonzaga is just their tempo, their pace, their ability to score and to get up was going to be too much for Purdue. But against Duke, I think Purdue has a solid chance. I mean, Jeremy made the statement earlier, if you lose against Purdue, you must be trash. So UNC lost to Purdue earlier this season.
UNC got dominated by Purdue. That was I've given up on UNC like 3 times this year. That was the first time. Wasn't the last.
That's funny, man. Yeah, it wasn't the last. Yeah, first but not the last. The next game that we have is going to be on the other side of our bracket. We're almost done. It's almost around 2 hours, right? So the next game that we have, I have Arizona versus Wisconsin. Jeremy has Tennessee versus Auburn. I'm gonna go with Arizona right here. I think Arizona, again, them against Purdue would be an awesome matchup. It'd be a fun, entertaining game. And again, Wisconsin is a very solid team, but I'm feeling Arizona for some reason right now. So I'm gonna go with Arizona.
Yeah. So for me, my Tennessee-Auburn matchup, SEC for some reason, I don't know why, but I'm going to go with Tennessee to win this one. Go with Rick Barnes, who's having a bit of a rejuvenation here in Tennessee, takes his team to the final. The guy who had Kevin Durant, had PJ Tucker, probably TJ Ford. He had all the guys in Texas. I mean, I don't know when they were actually good, but Rick Barnes was there for a while. Either way, I'm going to have him Turner too, right? Leading his team. Miles Turner, exactly. Had all the guys at Texas. And they'll get go to the finals versus Gonzaga. And if Gonzaga makes it to the final versus a not powerful, like, you know what I mean, school, this might be the year that they actually have a chance to win. We've seen Gonzaga play 2 championship games. They actually could have beat UNC. They had no chance against Baylor. So maybe this is the year. If they play a team without any sort of pedigree at all and that isn't necessarily up to their level talent-wise, maybe they win this year. But maybe Tennessee is as good as everyone thinks they are. So I don't know. Gonzaga and Tennessee is my final.
We'll see with that one. So Gonzaga, Tennessee for Jeremy. Purdue versus Arizona for me. And you know what it's going to be. Purdue's going to figure it out. Actually, I feel like Arizona will probably win this game, but Purdue's going to figure it out. So I have Purdue winning this game. They both score a lot. When Purdue scores over 80, I think that they're like undefeated this year. So I'm going to have Purdue at 87, and I'm going to have Arizona at 74. It's going to be can I do 74? Yeah. Purdue's going to dominate 74. All right. So Purdue 74. Awesome.
All right. Purdue and Arizona. See, my thing is I don't know anything about Arizona to just go out on a limb to pick them. And even though I'm going out on a limb to pick these other teams, it feels like this Arizona thing happened too fast. Like last year, they were just a team that fired their coach, and now they're one of the best teams in the country. And it does happen that fast sometimes, but I'm being cautious about the Arizona thing.
All right, sounds good to me. Let me see. Saving this. But yeah, overall, interesting tournament, man. Like I said, anything can happen. Me and Jeremy had two totally different brackets, two totally different types of upsets. But overall, man, I'm excited for this tournament. It starts tomorrow. It officially really starts tomorrow. Right now, the game between Notre Dame and Rutgers is basically tied with 12 minutes left. 50 of Notre Dame, 51 for Rutgers. And Ron Harper Jr. is 7 for 10, 2 from 3 from 3-point range with 16 points. So again, he's showing out and really doing a really good job. One block as well with a couple rebounds. So Jeremy, any last thoughts before we finish up and get out of here, by the way?
No, I'm excited. This is like the first real tournament we've had in a couple years. That's how it feels. It starts tomorrow, Michigan and Colorado State. So we get to see who wins that first matchup and get going at 12:15. I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to watch these games. I got to be in a lab tomorrow. There's like no Wi-Fi. My boss is working with me, so I can't just like sneak around the corner and watch the game. I'm trying to figure out how to watch these games. Man, you remember, man, in grad school, we used to go in that big lecture hall and watch the games on the big screen in the middle of man, how good was life back then? Everything's changed. Oh, man.
Solid. Things change now, man. Things change. But also, man, I'm excited to see how these brackets do. So I have all my different brackets. I've actually did a couple different brackets. I've had this one I should have had Arizona win, and that one gave me 4 different winners. That Kansas won, Purdue won, Duke won, and now I have Purdue as another. But if Arizona wins, that'll be fine too. But I'm going with Purdue. I have to represent. Can't wear all this and then say nothing. So outside of that, thank you guys for listening. This is our men's tournament challenge picks. So thanks again from Beyond Sports with Paul and Jeremy. Let us know what you think about our picks and who you guys have outside of that. Have a good evening and take care, guys.
All right, see you. Thanks a lot.